Welcome to the Angular Circular Gauge component tutorial. In this video, I'll show you how to customize the axes of the Syncfusion Angular Circular Gauge. You'll learn how to adjust labels or ranges, and add multiple axes and ranges. First, I'll open an existing Angular application where I've already added a Syncfusion Angular Circular Gauge component. To learn how to get started with the Angular Circular Gauge component, refer to the video linked in the YouTube card above or in the description below. I will run this application using the command npm start to show the initial demo. See, the circular gauge is rendered. Now I will show you how to customize the axis. Here, the axis line is rendered based on the theme color. To display the axis line in blue and apply a background color to the gauge, first, I will define the axis tag within the axis tag. Then let me set a custom color to the background property. Next, change the axis line color. I navigate to the app component TS file and define an object, line style, with the color property set to blue. I also set the width of the axis line by setting the width property to 2 pixels. Then I bind this object to the line style. Looking here, the specified colors are set to the background and axis line. Next, let's customize the gauge's start and end values. The gauge's default start value is 0, and the end value is 100. To set custom start and end values, I use the minimum and maximum properties. I set the values to 50 and 250. See, now the start value is 50 and the end value is 250. Next, to customize major ticks, open app component TS file, define an object, major ticks, with the color property set to blue. I also set the width to 3 pixel and height to 10 pixel. To set intervals between major ticks, set the interval property to 20. Then I bind this object to the major ticks property. Similarly, I customize minor ticks by defining an object, minor ticks, and setting the tick color to green, width to 2 pixel, height to 5 pixel, and interval to 5. Then bind this object to the minor ticks property. Now the major and minor ticks are customized as specified. Usually ticks appear close to the axis lines. If you want a space between them, use the offset property. To demonstrate, I set the offset property to 5 pixel in both major and minor ticks objects. See, now the space between the axis line and ticks is 5 pixel. By default, ticks are positioned inside the axis. However, they can also be placed outside and across the axis. Let me show you how to set the ticks outside. So I set the position property to outside for major and minor ticks. Look here, ticks are displayed outside the axis. By default, the labels are rendered in a straight line. To display the labels along the axis, I define an object called label style and set the auto angle property to true. Now I bind this object to the label style property. The gauge labels are rendered along the axis. Here, the labels are rendered based on the range and intervals specified. You can also display custom labels. For example, if I want to add a degree Celsius symbol to the label, I set the format property with the appropriate value in the label style object. Here, the value represents the data label. Look, labels are displayed as formatted. Next, when this axis makes a complete circle, the first and last labels overlap. In such situations, I can hide the first or the last label and display it as a smart label. To demonstrate, I set the start angle to 0 and the end angle to 360 to make the axis a complete circle. Let me hide the first label by setting the hidden label property to first. You will see the first label hidden. By default, the circular gauge renders in the clockwise direction. To render it anti-clockwise, I set the direction property to anti-clockwise. The labels are now rendered in the anti-clockwise direction. In this example, I have a circular gauge with a single axis. Next, I'll show you how to add another axis to the gauge. To do this, I'll define an additional e-axis tag and set the background minimum and maximum properties. Check, multiple axes are rendered on the circular gauge. So far, I have shown you how to customize axes. Next, I will show you how to customize ranges. First, I add a range by defining the eRanges tag. Then add a single eRange tag with the basic properties start and end values. Look, the circular gauge has rendered with the defined range and an equal width. To display it in different widths along the axis, I set the start width and end width properties to 2 pixel and 20 pixels respectively. As you can see, the width of the range increases along the axis. This variation in width can be paired with different range colors. I change the range color to blue by setting the color property and the opacity to 0.2. And the color of the range has changed along with the axis. The default position for a range is inside the axis. Apart from this, there are outside, cross, and auto positions. When I set the position property to cross, the range of the circular gauge is rendered across the axis. To customize the appearance of a range, use the rounded corner radius property. Before that, I will set the range position to default by removing the position property. Then set the rounded corner radius property to 5 pixel. And the ranges are displayed with rounded edges. Notice that the circular gauge has a single axis range. If I want to add 2 more axis ranges, I need to include 2 additional eRange tags. I have appropriately set the start, end, and radius values for the ranges. Then remove the start and end width properties from the first range and set the radius for that range. Look, the component renders with multiple ranges. Let me summarize this video. I have shown you how to add multiple axes and ranges and customize axes, labels, and ranges of the Syncfusion Angular Circular Gauge component. If you would like to try out the example used in this video, you can download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link where you can learn about obtaining a free license key to use our Angular components through our community license if you are eligible. If you found it helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching this video.